Dave.
Yeah.
It's a repeat performance today. Yes, a repeat appearance. We had this gentleman on the podcast once.
Gentleman, have you met him?
I'm using that term. We had him on once when he first joined the Radio Misfits podcast network a few years ago.
Part of the team, we hazed him. Remember when we hazed him?
We did.
He's
part of the team. And now we're having him on again because he's got a brand new book that came out this week. It's called 40 Years, 40 Films. Dave, you have it there in your hand
right here.
now. It's a pretty sharp-looking book,
and we're going to
it?
be talking about the 60-pound uncoated offset that the pages are printed on and the 12-point coated one-side cover right after this.
Yeah, the guest is the podcaster, the broadcaster, the film critic, and now author, Nick Digilio, coming up right after this.
The following is a Tony Lasano podcast, an Opie show on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. This is the Minutia Men Celebrity Interview with Rick and Dave.
Nick, how are you?
I'm good. You sure you got this right? Celebrity interview?
Yeah, yeah. It qualifies.
You guys are really scraping the bottom of the barrel, man.
Nick, just so you know, we interviewed the president of the Bobblehead Museum. So
no kidding.
Yeah. So it's a term that we use loosely.
So
but I'm much more impressed with that guy. I got to tell you.
Yeah, but I tell you what, his business card is not as packed as yours. Broadcaster, podcaster, film critic, and now author.
Yes. Author.
Yeah,
man.
Sounds
pretty good, doesn't it?
It sounds great. I got to tell you, you guys have been in the publishing business for a long time, I mean, it's no secret that you got your publishing company published my book, for God's sake.
That's true.
And I could not be more grateful to you guys. But there's something about it. I'm sure you probably have heard this. You guys are authors yourself. You know it. When you get that proof, David brought it over to my place because we live not very far from each other. And there's just something about it. You're holding it in your hand. You're like, holy crap. Like, what is this? This is a book?
I had one author that I turned to proof and he goes, oh my God, it's got a barcode on it.
I know. No,
it's like real.
That's true. That's absolutely true. It's like, look at that. I remember, my partner in crime here is my girlfriend, Julie, who helped, she's the one who's like, get off your ass and write a book. It always, doesn't it like usually take a woman, you know what I mean? To like, go, what the, quit talking about it, jag off and do it, And so she's been like really helping me out and all kinds of really great stuff from the beginning of the book on. And I'm not kidding you. She was like, look at the barcode. Like it was a thing.
I know.
It really was a thing. Yeah.
Well, most of this interview, we're going to talk about the 60-pound uncoated offset and the 12-point. I mean, did you check out that matte finish on the cover there, Nick? That's pretty.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, it's this thing turned out like I can't even explain to you how unbelievably happy I am with it in every way.
This is great because now there's just the three of us listening because Dave has scared off all the non-paper fans, but we'll carry on anyway. I just wanted to know what it was about this subject. I mean, obviously you're a film critic and you've been doing it for years, but why did you want to make this book? What was it that made you write it?
It was, I've been doing this for a long time and everybody, it's in the book. Everybody since high school, I'm not kidding, since high school has like, Nick, what'd you think of this movie? Or Nick, what'd you think of that movie? And even after I became a professional critic, I still had friends and stuff who didn't even acknowledge that I was like professional and getting paid to do it.
Right.
They'd be like, hey, what do you think of this movie? And I tell them, and they're like, you're full of shit. And I'm like, oh, all right, that's cool. So it just became a thing. And I've been talking about movies and I relate a lot of what's happened to me in my life with movies because it's just the one constant, I've gone through a lot of stuff. We moved around a little bit when I was younger, and I've been married a couple of times before, and so friends and all kinds of stuff and traveling. But the one constant in this ever-changing life that I've lived is movies. And I thought, well, maybe I should kind of write a pseudo autobiography. It's a little bit of an autobiography.
Yeah,
a memoir in the first few chapters. And then tie it all in with movies. And I'm thinking, well, how should I do that? And last year was, this year is my 40th year as a film critic. I started in March of 1985. And I thought, okay, 40 years, maybe I'll just take my favorite movie from each year, tie it into my life. And that's kind of where it came from. just basically my entire life has been like tied into movies somehow. And I thought that would make kind of a fun memoir and put all my lists in there so people can read the book and then carry it around with them and go, oh, yeah, I need to rent this one or I need to see this one and that kind of stuff.
The thing about this book, and what you had mentioned, I thought is so applicable, is we look at movies that we've seen and like you say, there's a certain feeling, there's a certain smell almost, and the aura, right? Like I remember watching Halloween when I was, I don't know, what was it, 12 or whatever, 15.
Yeah.
And I just remember, like I said, the smell of the theater where I was, because especially with impactful movies. And it's, and I love how you just said that. It's kind of the cultural impact of you personally in that moment in time, right?
Well, that you mentioned Halloween, and Halloween is a major film in my life, and I talk about that in one of the chapters at the beginning of the before I became a film critic. But when I saw Halloween, I was 13 years old, and by that point, I had seen every movie imaginable that was inappropriate for a child. Like I had, my father took me down to the Loop when those theaters, the Chicago Theater remains, and so does the Nederlander. That used to be the Oriental Theater. There were probably 16 theaters within walking
I remember
distance of each other in the Loop. Yeah, and I love that. It was kind of like the Chicago version of 42nd Street. It was like that Times Square, and it was loaded with movie theaters. And by the time I was growing up, going down there in the early, mid, late 70s, they were shitholes, those theaters. They were falling apart. They were in disarray. Some of them were rat infested, and they'd open up at 8:00 in the morning and they close at 1:00 in the morning, and people would go in and sleep. Mm-hmm. And that's where I saw movies. That's where I grew up. And it was mostly African American audience, and this was a complete culture shift for me. I grew up near Wrigley Field, and watching all of these movies at a very, very young age in those grindhouses, that was formidable for me. That was it. Yeah. And that's how and when I was 13 years old and I had seen everything, look, my father took me to see The Exorcist when I was 8. Mm-hmm. So, that just sums it up right there. So by the time when I saw Halloween, I had seen a million movies. I was about to graduate, elementary school and move on to high school. And that was the first movie where I actively remember thinking, wow, I think I know what a director does. Because up until that point in my 13 years of seeing movies, I'd seen credits pop up and I would read them and I didn't know what they meant. Like, what the hell's a cinematographer? I don't care who wrote it, whatever. But then when I saw Halloween, something happened. I was like, I think that's what a director does. And I went out when they used to have posters outside the theater, those days. Uh-huh. Right. And I looked at the poster, and on the bottom it said directed by John Carpenter, and that was it. I dove into what directors did, and I started studying film. And that was a life-changing moment for me. And I always associate Halloween, that movie, with this moment where I really dove into cinema. Like, that was the movie that did it for me. And I know a lot of people are like, Halloween, it's just a horror film. But no, it's more than that. And it really changed the way I looked at movies. And that's in the book as well, even though it came out before I became a film critic.
You start in 1985.
Right.
And you picked for the movie of the year,
the greatest movie
our
ever.
Favorite movie.
Which you can't say nest, you can't say egg.
Love that movie so much.
Well, does it in his heart?
When I actually contacted you, Rick, and said, hey, I got this book, I knew I was in because the first chapter is about Lost in America. Yeah, I was like, "Oh, I'm in. I'm in. These guys are going to publish my book for sure."
Right. That's a hint.
Lost in America. Lost in America is it's
I'm sorry. That's a hint to any authors out there. Just flop out an Albert Brooks mention.
Mel Brooks will work too.
3-book deal, baby. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. That was the first one. And, it was a great year, though. I mean, and the other thing is that I include in the book not only my favorite film, which I write an essay about and tie it into my life with each movie, but I include the top 10 list from each year. Right. So there are 40 top 10 lists from 1985 to 2024 in here. And 1985 was a pretty great year. I mean, But 85 was the year that it became official. I mean, it was Roy Leonard. I didn't get the gig. He's like, well, my producer left, and you should go in and interview for the job. And I was like, what? I had dropped out of Columbia. I was working at the Jewels, and and I'd gone to a bunch of screenings, and I knew Roy by this point. And then, I had like called his show a million times, and I became like a go-to.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you guys have been in the radio business for a long time. You know that a lot of the hosts don't sound as smart as they sound. Because like he would get a question from somebody and they would call me and go, Nick, who directed blah, blah, blah. And then Roy would say it. It's like that scene in Broadcast News where Albert Brooks goes, I say it here and it comes out there, and and Roy knew that like that was the kind of relationship we had and that I helped behind the scenes. And it was, but he like said, yeah, you should interview for the position. And I didn't get it. And rightfully so. I had no business, interviewing for a producer. And because I didn't get the gig, Roy goes, well, you know what, Nick, look, I'm tired of seeing crap. You go see the crap, and it's like, you see the Kung Fu movies, you like them. You go see those horror movies, you like that crap. Then you can review them on my show. And I was like, that's the consolation prize?
Yeah,
like,
really.
I mean, you've produced before. You produced radio, and I got the better deal.
Without question.
But yeah, that's how it all started in 1985. And the first movie I ever reviewed was Friday the 13th, Part 5. That was the first movie I ever reviewed as a film critic, as a professional film critic. So I earned my money right out of the gate.
Yeah. Well, and you also dedicated the book to Roy, which I thought was wonderful. And, for people that are not from the Chicago area, Roy Leonard, WGN Radio is who we're talking about. Tell us a little bit about what Roy meant to you.
Oh, man. It's hard to. Do we have 5 hours?
Yeah, you wrote about it a little bit in the book. So, but
Well, no, Roy. I mean, listen, I wouldn't have the career without him. I would not have been at WGN for 35 years. I would have not have hosted my own show for 20 of those years, and any of it. I would have not become a film critic without Roy Leonard. I met Roy as a fan. I used to listen to his show. Like almost anybody who was from Chicago of a certain age. I mean, I'm 60, so there was a specific time when WGN was on all the time because the Cubs were on WGN and all that stuff. And so it was just the deal. Everybody I knew, you have your radio station, you had the radio set to GN. That's all. Mm-hmm. And you knew all of the people. You knew your Wally Phillipses, you knew your Bob Collins and your Stephen Johnnies and all these people. And Eddie Schwartz, all these guys. But Roy was the guy that I was attracted to the most because like he was accessible. Like he was a guy, I mean, he knew his shit. He reviewed film, he reviewed theater, he reviewed books, and music. And I loved his thoughts on film. But like you couldn't call Siskel and Ebert, but you could call Roy. Like I could call him. I'm like a 14-year-old kid. And I'm calling Roy Leonard, and I'm going, why didn't you like Caddyshack? And he's like, well, how do you feel about the nudity? And I'm like, what? What? But that's how it started.
By the way.
Yeah.
I'm 13. What do you think I like her?
Yeah, what do you think? Why do you think I've gone back and seen it 20 times? Cindy Morgan? Are you kidding me? But anyway, so it started that way. Like I was a fan, and then he got to know me. He was like, oh, you're this guy that calls my show all the time, and blah, blah, blah. And he just became like the more I got to know him, he was so generous and so nice, easily, without question, the most selfless, the nicest, the most incredible person I've ever met in the history of broadcasting. You don't see these kind of guys. Like, I mean, you guys know there are a lot of people in broadcasting are just selfish, egotistical dicks. And
we're not going to name any names, but
no. But Roy was the opposite of that.
He was.
And he was incredibly nice and just selfless and cool, and introduced me to all the right people, fought for me at GN when program directors and bosses were like, get this kid off the air. He's terrible, and he's pissing off all the GN listeners. And Roy would go to bat for me, and became a friend and a confidant, and I respected him to no end. There was no better broadcaster on the planet. Watching him do a radio show was a joy. I mean, and like sometimes like, and even, you guys know this, when you're watching somebody do a radio show, you're listening to a radio show, you're 30 seconds into a commercial and when Roy's on and you're like, wait a minute, this son of a bitch is reading a commercial right now.
Yeah.
And you don't know it. And that's
so smooth.
That's the smoothness and the greatness of him. But he became a friend, and I would not have I've ever accomplished in the broadcasting world, in the film world, the criticism world, none of it without Roy. So of course I had to dedicate the book to him, and I wanted to dedicate the book to him. There'd be no book without Roy.
I thought he was like the hippest old guy ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was like the age of my grandfather and was so hip and cool.
Unbelievable, right? I mean, like, when I met him, Jesus, when I met him, he was probably in his 50s when I met him.
Yeah.
And, so he's a middle-aged dude. And I'm like, ooh, what, this guy, and then when I got to know him, because, like, he's got this great sort of reputation and he is this guy. He's a family guy. Yeah. He raised 6 kids with his wonderful wife, Sheila. And they were amazing. And he stood for something. He had, he was grounded. He was awesome. But he was also, a lot of people might not know this. He's a little dirty from time to time. You know what I mean? And he was a real guy. And he was like the hippest old dude in the room. There's no question about it. Yeah.
Let's talk about another hip dude who we sadly lost just a couple of weeks ago.
Man,
the foreword is written by our friend Tony Fitzpatrick, and
the introduction. The
introduction. I'm sorry, is written by Tony.
The foreword is written by Don Coscarelli. I can get to that in a minute, but the intro is written by Tony.
And big friend of ours, obviously. Very sadly, I'm getting a little emotional even talking about it because when we published this book, I think when I brought you the proof, he had just passed away like the day before or something.
Literally.
Like that. Yeah.
It was like 2 days before. It was like two or 3 days before. Yeah.
Talk about your relationship with Tony. And it's a beautiful.
It's, the last conversation I had with Tony, an actual phone conversation where we actually spoke to one another, was after he sent me the introduction. Because I asked him to write the introduction in like June. And I was like, look, man, I got this book and I'm not sure, when we're going to publish it or what's going on with it. But I would be honored if you wrote the introduction. And even before I got the word out of my mouth, he's like, yep, I'm there. Count on it. It's done. And I'm like, okay, because that was Tony.
Yeah.
And then he wrote the introduction. The last time we spoke, I called him to thank him for the for the introduction, and we spoke. And then he, we would text each other back and forth and stuff like that. And then he was in the hospital for a while, and we would text back and forth while he was there. And I didn't get a chance. And honestly, he died you guys know this. He died on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And Julie and I were going to visit him the following Sunday. Yeah. We were going to go to Rush and visit him. And I was like, what the I dropped my phone when I found out about it.
Yeah.
But I knew Tony I met Tony years ago through film criticism. I was reviewing movies, and I just started like in the mid '80s with Roy. And about a year or so into my run as a film critic reviewing movies on Roy's show, Tony started to show up at the screenings, and I knew who Tony was. I was aware of his, I was aware of who he was. I was, on the art scene, and I knew who he was locally because the guy was a legend. And he started to show up at screenings, and I was like, hey, man. And we started to talk, and then he was, at that point he began, I think, starting to work with The Loop.
Yeah, he worked with me at the Loop. Yep.
Yeah, and this was like, I don't know, 86, 87, something like that. And I met him there, and then we immediately clicked, and we hung out, and I would go to a lot of his openings. I remember some specific. I have a lot of stories about hanging out with Tony, a ton of them. But I remember specifically one of the big times we bonded was when he, at his gallery on 13th, World Tattoo.
Yeah.
He had the guys from New Crime, that was John Cusack's theater company, do a show in his space called Methuselah. And there were stories about, like, because I knew John at that time, not the name drop, but I knew John and I knew Jeremy Piven at that time. Hung out at a place called O'Rourke's quite frequently. And so through that, there was a connection between that. And then Tony and I would share stories about how much both of us would simultaneously like to punch John Cusack repeatedly in the face.
He does have a punchable face, doesn't he?
He does, doesn't he? He does. But I mean, it goes back to that. That's how we started. He started doing the drive-in reviews with Buzz. You guys know that.
Yeah.
And that's how I kind of met him. But then, like, we would hang out, and he was, he was incredibly generous, and he would appear on my radio show all the time. Like, I would say, hey, would you do this radio? Would you be on my radio show? He's like, man, you're on at 2:00 in the morning. What the fuck? And then he'd show up, and he didn't care. So he became a friend in and out of the business. And I learned so much from him. He was so generous with not just his art and his feelings, but like just his time. No, he was an incredible dude, and I was lucky to know him. And you know, when he passed, I was like, I can't, you know, like the last thing we talked about was this introduction in the book that he wrote. And the book, it has an added layer, to it because of this introduction. Because I didn't know that Tony would be dead when the book was published.
I mean,
nobody did.
We published his book, like it was right before yours. I mean, his book just came out.
Right. It's a beautiful book. It's fantastic. Yeah. And like everything Tony did, whether it was the art or the books or the writing or the poetry or the acting, whether on stage or on TV or in movies, he was a true Renaissance man. And as honest, and he didn't give a shit what people thought.
No, he did not.
He said what and I loved that about him.
I did too.
He was honest to a fault, man, and he was a special guy, no question about it. And I'm honored and thrilled that his introduction opens up my book. I mean, it's amazing.
So I've seen most of the movies that you picked as movie of the year. But I also noticed that you picked very few Oscar winners. Some didn't even make your top 10 list for a particular year. So I mean, you must have some feelings about, let's call them egregious Oscar abominations. Like what are the ones that you're like, that piece of crap should never have been on a top 10 list?
Well, okay, we can go pretty recently. I am not an Oppenheimer guy at all.
Yeah.
Like, I think Oppenheimer,
a little slow.
It's a little long? Jesus. I think it's still running. I think the screening I went to is still happening.
It was longer than the fucking war.
So that's one. And I mean, there are things I'm trying to think off the top of my head, like Lord of the Rings. That wasn't my favorite film of that year, and it won. I loved La La Land, and it should have won instead of Moonlight, and that's in the book. But for the most part, you're right. I mean, I there are a lot of movies that, like last year, Nora won Best Picture, which is a movie that I thought was okay, but there were so many better movies that came out, last year than that. I mean, I'm a Dune guy. I'm a huge Dune fan. But I didn't really, it wasn't on purpose. Like, it wasn't like, I'm going to show those Oscar movies by not picking them. It just kind of happens. There are a few that are in there. I mean, Forrest Gump in 1994, that was my favorite movie of the year. And that swept the Oscars. So what happens to Unforgiven? There's another one. Yeah. So your theory's getting blown right out of the water, by the way.
Yeah, sorry.
But for the most part, I'm not influenced by the Academy at all. And there have been more movies that didn't deserve those awards that won them than the opposite. Like the movies that the best movie of the year is usually not the one that wins Best Picture. That's in my opinion.
That's true.
When we talk about 1996, you did mention Fargo in your list, but you did not give it the top spot. And quite frankly, you're fucking wrong, because Fargo is perhaps my favorite movie of all time, probably.
Well, I mean, and it's funny that you bring that year up, because the movie that I chose that year, and I didn't choose it because of because it would be like the most what was Dead Man, Jim Jarmusch's weird ass Western.
Yeah, I don't think I saw. I don't think I've ever seen it.
I've never seen it either.
You'd remember. You'd remember it if you saw it. It's in blazing black and white, and it's got an incredible cast of weird, grizzled sort of character actors, and it's led by Johnny Depp, and an unbelievably insane music score by Neil Young. And I adore that movie. I adore it. So it's weird that yes, Fargo's on my list. It was, I thought, one of the best movies of the year, but. And then there are certain movies in here that people go, what? When they look at, and Dead Man is one of them. And especially, a lot of people loved Fargo. I love Fargo too. I just didn't think it was the best movie of the year.
I love the line here on page 75. Dead Man is not an easy film. I love the way that you put it.
Yeah, it isn't. It's not. And it drove a lot of people crazy. That's one of those movies that I remember recommending that thing. And this was, and Roy was about a year and a half away from retirement, when that came out, and I'm here, I am singing the praises on the show, and he's like, "What's wrong with you?" which happened frequently. That happened with, Roy used the phrase, "What's wrong with you?" a lot. Dead Man is, I love the movie. It's a weird film, but I still absolutely love it.
So what do you think, having written all this, what do you think is the one that is like the most obscure? I mean, maybe it's Dead Man, or most controversial pick that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I can tell you the most obscure. I can tell you the one where people go, I don't know what that is. I have no idea what it is. I don't even know what you're talking about. And that's 187.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I have no idea.
Yeah, no, no one does. It was 1997. It was a year after Dead Man.
Okay.
So it was 1997.
How much pot were you smoking?
Yeah, I was just going to say, a little wacky. Was that during the dark times, Nick?
No, 187 is a movie that no one saw. Like, it was in and out of theaters in about a week. It's a dark, really sort of like depressing film about the educational system in LA specifically. Samuel L. Jackson plays a teacher who, in the first 5 minutes of the movie, when he's a teacher in Brooklyn, he is shivved and stabbed almost to death by Method Man in the hallway of a high school, by a student. That's the opening scene of the movie. Hi, everybody. Here's Samuel Jackson being killed in a high school hallway. He relocates to L.A., becomes a substitute teacher because he loves teaching. But, of course, he's traumatized by what happened to him. He almost died. He was stabbed multiple times. And, of course, the school that he's working at, that he gets hired at as a substitute teacher, is loaded with gang problems in the middle of L.A. And it's about him dealing with the educational system and dealing with the gangbangers in very, very intense fashion. Clifton Collins Jr., who's gone on to be in a bunch of movies, he plays sort of the gang leader in it. Kelly Rowan, who was, I believe, in the OC, or who ended up on that show. She plays kind of the romantic interest, although there really isn't any romance in the movie. And it's directed by Kevin Reynolds, who directed Waterworld, which I love. And
wait a minute.
I love Waterworld.
Wow.
I do.
Okay.
I do. I know. I love it. But Kevin Reynolds is a guy who is mostly known for his relationship with Kevin Costner. He directed Robin Hood. He directed the first big movie that Costner was in, Fandango, which was on my top 10 list in 1985, under Lost in America. And this was a movie that was a really personal movie. It was written by a teacher, but it's so uncompromisingly dark. Like, at the end of the movie, there's like no hope. It's like, you
call it a bleak gut punch conclusion that leaves you stunned.
Yeah. The ending of this movie, I'm like, how the hell did they get away with this? Because it was like fun. It was, who produced this movie? His company produced it. Mel Gibson.
Wow.
His company produced, helped produce this movie. And it came and went because it was so dark. And the critics were not kind to it. The only critic that liked it was Dave Kerr out of New York. So he and I were the only ones in the country that kind of raved about it. And but yeah, that's the one that gets the most head shaking. That's without question of the ones. And I've got there's some offbeat films that are in here, that were on my list. And if you look at the actual top 10 list, there's even more weird shit.
Well, I think it's cool. I mean, I don't want you to tell everything that's in the book, because people got to buy the book, right? So
right.
And it is really good. It's
Thanks,
I like the way you've written it. I like the way you have brought parts of your life into the telling of why it was important to you for that particular year, that particular time, the things that you're going through. And I think people are really going to enjoy it.
I appreciate that. I really do. And what I tried to do was, try to figure out, well, why did I like this movie so much? Why did it hit me so much? And there's a lot of stuff. Like I've gone through a lot of stuff in my life, and I got sober in 2015, and there was a period of time, when movies that I saw affected me differently because of my sobriety.
Right.
And I talk about that in the book. And then after I was let go from GN, I fell off the wagon, and the movie that came out that year also coincided with, that year was terrible. 2020 was terrible. It was a COVID. Yeah. And I went through a horrible thing. I was in the hospital. I almost died, and all this other crap. And so my favorite movie that year is this thing called The Lodge. Which is one of the bleakest and darkest horror movies ever. And I look back at it and I'm like, well, of course it's about isolation. It's a film about isolation and being manipulated. And I was like, Well, of course, that's the movie I liked, but I found it interesting to kind of go back and look at the movies from back, 80s and the 90s. And I was like, what was I going through in my life at the time? And then yeah, that makes sense. That's why I leaned in on these movies at that time. I started working with a theater company. So a couple of these choices, directing and getting on stage and stuff like that, a couple of these choices were a little more theatrical than other times because I dove into theater, and so, yeah, it was interesting to go back and look at my life and go, oh, okay, that's why, I like weirdo movies.
Well, I think it adds depth to the book because, nobody ever gets the angle of what was the critic going through when they saw that film on that day. You'd never think about it, really. And so I appreciate you for doing it.
All great storytelling is telling the story to the right people at the right time.
Yeah.
So,
I appreciate that, you guys. It means a lot. And that's kind of what I wanted to go for. I wanted to give people hey, I'm a critic, obviously. I'm a film critic. But like my real life affects how I see movies, just like everybody else.
Right.
A lot of people don't think critics are just assholes, or whatever. They're know-it-alls, which we are. But
well, you don't know about Fargo. You kind of fucked that up.
Yeah.
All right, okay, I fucked up Fargo. That's it.
But assholes are people too, is what you're saying. Yes,
exactly.
So, talk to us about some of the promotions we've got going. Let's sell this sucker.
Yeah, where are you going to be?
I will be at every month I do this. I host a thing called Nick's Picks with Classic Cinemas. That's at the Lake Theater in Oak Park, which is a beautiful theater in downtown Oak Park. Thrilled to be a part of it. I saw a lot of movies there when I was a little kid. I remember I just hosted in just this past October, I hosted a screening of Carrie there.
Ooh, wow. Cool.
And I saw that movie in that theater that I hosted at.
Cool.
That's pretty
in
cool.
1976, and almost shit my pants because it scared the hell out of me.
Yeah, it's a
and
scary
so I have
one.
it is such a great movie. But monthly, the second Wednesday of each month, I host a screening where I introduce the movie, we talk about it afterwards, and I give away prizes. And it's fun. It's the Nick's Picks Classic Cinema series, and the next one is on Wednesday, November 12th.
Which is the day this drops. This episode drops.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right. So tonight, tonight. At the Lake Theater in Oak Park. It's of Brian De Palma's insane sex thriller Body Double from 1984.
I love that movie.
No, I'm glad you do, man. Yeah. There aren't a lot of people that do.
I know it got terrible reviews, but I loved it.
Me too, man.
Yeah.
Anytime you can watch Frankie Goes to Hollywood perform Relax in a porno movie I'm good.
Exactly.
I'm good. That's all I need. So I'm hosting that movie, and then before and after, I'm going to have books there to sell and sign for anybody who wants to come. And then, so every month I'm going to be doing that. I will bring books with me to every single screening. And then we have a thing that we're going to be doing at Kaiser Tiger. Kaiser Tiger on Randolph.
Yep. So we'll tell everybody about that too.
This is I'm just thumbing through I wasn't listening to most of this podcast because I was really
You're still thinking about the paper.
The Fargo thing is still fucking
the Fargo thing. You're never going to get over it, man. You're never going to get over it.
But this is great, and we appreciate everything you're doing.
And people that are not familiar, you can see Nick on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. He's got 2 different podcasts. Tell everybody quickly about those.
Yeah.
Well, the original one is the Nick D podcast. Really, I went all out on the title. It's the Nick D. It's the Nick D podcast, and it's twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays are new episodes, and I have like a round robin of regular guests that cover the pop culture world. Obviously I review movies on it, but do so much more. We talk about television and books and theater and food, everything that I kind of talked about on my show on WGN. It's all there, and my co-host with the most is Esmeralda Leon, and she joins me on every episode. And we just shoot the shit and have some fun. So that's Nick D podcast. The other one is called That Show Hasn't Been Funny in Years, an SNL podcast. And it's all about Saturday Night Live. And I don't agree with that. I titled it ironically. I want people to know that because I love SNL. And that drops every Wednesday, and I have guests. And sometimes I just deep dive into episodes or sketches or cast members. I'd love to have you guys on because I've had a lot of people on. I'd love to have you guys on individually. to pick your 5 favorite sketches of all time and then talk about your history watching SNL. Because I'd love to have you guys on. And that's one of the other things that we cover, too.
The one that I would do, one of the one I would choose.
Don't save it for his podcast.
Okay. We call it a teaser.
Oh, okay. All right. Go
We
ahead.
call it the circumcision.
Okay.
And the back of the Buick or the Cadillac. Remember that one?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do. I do remember that. Yeah, and I thought, like, David was going to go right to, like, there's a scene in Fargo that's better than Saturday Night Live.
The wood chipper. That's it.
The wood chipper. That's what it is. Steve Buscemi and the wood chipper.
So you are doing twice. So you're doing like far more work than we are for the Radio Misfits. You're the star employee. You're a kiss ass.
I'm trying to kiss Ed's ass as much as possible. That's how it works. Tuesday and Friday, Nick D podcast. Wednesday. So three podcasts, 3 new episodes drop a week.
Okay. All right.
And I do that, and host this other stuff, and then I continue to write. And I've got a website where I blog every day, and all of my film reviews are on that. That's at nickdigilio.com. Where if you want, you can get a newsletter that has all of my upcoming things that are happening. And I write a lot on nickdigilio.com. The blog posts are a lot of fun to write. I do 3 of those a week too. So I stay busy writing and hosting the podcasts. And then, now I'm going to go out and I want to do a book tour. Let's get that going.
Let's do it. All right, Nick. Well, thanks for being on the show.
Buddy, it's been a pleasure.
And
thanks,
we'll probably come out to the thing in Oak Park, or at least one of us will, on Wednesday. We'll see you there.
Yeah. And you guys, seriously, in all seriousness, you have no idea how much I appreciate what you guys have done and how professional and how the turnaround has been amazing on just a technical level. What you guys do at Eckhart's and this experience of like not kind of knowing what I was going to do with this material and what has happened in literally like weeks is astonishing. And I owe that all to you guys. Really, seriously. It's been an incredible experience just getting the thing done,
Usually we shine in the first 4 or 5 weeks, and then you're yesterday's news.
We're a shooting star.
Yeah. Is that what it is? Yeah, that's what it is. Well, I mean, hell, you got the book was published, then you opened it up and said, wait a minute, Fargo's not in there? Fuck this guy. We're not doing any promo.
It did turn at that moment. It did turn. All right, Nick, have a good one. We'll see you soon.
Okay,
yeah, buddy. Thanks, man.
Take care. Thanks, man. Thanks a lot.
All right.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And there he goes, Nick Digilio.
Yeah,
he's a nice guy.
Oh, very nice guy.
He's basically our age.
He's my neighbor.
Yeah. So we have people to thank. We already mentioned Ed Silla of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network, who distributes the show. We should also thank our executive producer, Tony Lasano.
Yes, thank you, Tony.
With the Opie shows. And, we also have 3 shows.
Well, you have 3 shows.
Well, I guess that's true.
He's still working hard.
I know he is.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, his podcasts are sometimes, and I've listened to him. Like, he keeps it going for like an hour. We have 20 minutes, and I'm sleepy.
Right. I like the 30-minute mark.
Yeah,
I'm okay. That's all I can do right now. And I think we've passed the 30-minute mark.
Very prolific. This Nick Digilio guy, writing and. He's the Renaissance man as well.
He is. All right. It's time to wrap things up. We'll be back again soon with a new episode of
Minutia Man Celebrity Interview.
The proceeding was a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. Find our other great shows on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and at RadioMisfits.com. Thank you.
This has been a presentation of Opie Productions.
Tony, can you shut up?
You sure you got this right? Celebrity interview?